Devon stared at his transcript. It wasn't a pretty sight. Failing grades glared back at him. He was 2 years into college, but he felt further away from graduating than ever.
Credits, I'm woefully short, and my bank account, let's just say ramen noodles are starting to lose their appeal.
He'd always been a bright kid, acing tests in high school. But college was a different beast. The pressure was intense, the workload overwhelming. He felt lost in a sea of unfamiliar faces and complex concepts.
I need help and fast, but where can I turn?
One day he found himself outside Professor Johnson's office, a woman known for her unorthodox teaching methods. He hesitated, then knocked timidly.
Devon, come in. How can I help you?
Professor Johnson welcomed him with a warm smile, but Devon could barely stammer out his woes. She listened patiently, nodding sympathetically as Devon poured out his anxieties. When he was finished, she leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful look on her face.
Devon, I may have a solution.
Devon raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Professor Johnson had a reputation for thinking outside the box. But what she proposed next was beyond anything he could have imagined.
There's this new program at the Institute for Studies in Age Regression.
Devon's brow furrowed. Age regression? What did that have to do with his academic struggles?
The Institute is researching the benefits of temporary age regression for stress relief and cognitive enhancement. They need volunteers, and I thought you might be a perfect candidate. You'd be compensated, of course, and you'd be helping advance groundbreaking research.
But there was a catch, a big one. To participate, Devon wouldn't just be revisiting his childhood memories, he'd be regressing to infancy, physically, and he'd be fully aware of himself.
You want me to be a baby?
Well, not just any baby, Devon. You'd be an integral part of the child development in my art classes.
The thought of being a baby again, even temporarily, filled Devon with a mixture of apprehension and a strange sense of curiosity. On the one hand, it sounded utterly ridiculous, even humiliating. He imagined being cooed at, changed and burped by his pretty classmates. They would be well aware of who he was. On the other hand, the idea of shedding his worries and responsibilities, of returning to a state of blissful ignorance, held a certain allure. No more worry about classes, tests, or what was going on beyond campus grounds. And the financial incentive was nothing to sneeze at. His student loans were already a looming burden.
It's perfectly safe. The regression will be temporary, and you'll be closely monitored at all times. Plus, think of it as an immersive learning experience.
Immersive was one word for it, Devon thought wryly. He would be one of the main stars of the childcare classes. That meant being bathed, getting diaper changes, and undressed by his classmates. But the more he considered it, the more the idea grew on him. It was a chance to hit the escape button to the pressures of college life and maybe even earn some much-needed cash. After a sleepless night of deliberation, Devon made his decision. He marched back to Professor Johnson's office, a determined glint in his eye.
Okay, let's do this baby thing.
At the local age regression clinic, a team of doctors and technicians, all smiles and soothing voices, explained the procedure. He was ushered into a room that partly resembled a nursery, complete with a crib, a changing table, and a mobile adorned with colourful animals. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. Devon had expected something clinical, cold, but the back waiting area was warm and inviting, filled with soft toys and the gentle melodies of lullabies. The Institute for Age Regression Research was surprisingly serene. The process is gradual, allowing your body and mind to adjust to each stage of regression.
You'll be given a combination of medication and therapy, helping you to adjust to each younger age.
There were brief moments when he couldn't remember where he was or how he got there. He felt a pang of panic, then confusion. When Devon awoke, he was in the crib, his vision slightly blurry, his limbs flailing. Then everything went blank. It felt strange, his senses dulling, his thoughts becoming simpler, his limbs feeling smaller and less coordinated.
Mama, Mama!
A wave of despair washed over him, and he started to cry, fat tears rolling down his cheeks. Devon's first few days as a baby were a blur of new sensations and forgotten instincts.
I had to learn to crawl again, to gurgle and coo, and to find comfort in the warmth of a caregiver's embrace, like Professor Johnson.
He was surprised by the intensity of his emotions, the way a simple toy could bring him endless joy, or how a wet diaper could reduce him to tears. the feeling of being too cold or hot making him so uncomfortable.
As promised, I incorporated Devon into my classes. He became a living, breathing visual aid for my art students as a nude model. Our professional adult female model was posing as a mother figure while she held a naked Devon in her arms, nestled against her body with his face mere inches from her exposed breasts. Devon fighting the urge to suck on the exposed nipple or touch them.
The college girls, initially giggling at the sight of a former grown man now back in infancy, were soon captivated by his baby antics.
We took turns feeding him, changing him, and reading him stories so he stays still as possible.
Our initial awkwardness gave way to genuine affection.
He soon served as a sole model for the life drawing sessions, his chubby limbs and innocent expressions inspiring a new generation of artists. I sat him on the table in full view of everyone in all of his glory. He was a huge hit in the childcare classes, along with the other few volunteers. He was even the star attraction in a photography exhibition titled Innocence Regained. They had studied his reactions in great detail while they played many fun games with him to get the perfect shots.
Devon loved the attention, revelled in the warmth, the care, the unconditional love that surrounded him.
I was living a paradox, a college student trapped in a baby's body, yet in some ways, I felt more free than ever before.
With Devon now temporarily legally an infant, Professor Johnson took on the role of his temporary guardian after informing his parents of the deal. It was an unusual arrangement, but one that seemed to suit them both.
She converted a spare room in her house into a nursery, complete with a rocking chair and a nightlight that projected twinkling stars onto the ceiling.
She approached her new role with a blend of academic curiosity and maternal warmth. She kept detailed journals of his development, noting his milestones, his preferences, his unique personality traits. She would often sit by his crib, watching him sleep, a soft smile on her face.
At times, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, knowing that this period of innocent bliss was only temporary. But she cherished the time they had together, the bond that grew stronger with each passing day, forging a stronger bond between professor and student.
Devon, for his part, thrived under her care. He felt safe, loved, and completely at peace. He had no deadlines, no expectations, no worries beyond his next meal or diaper change. It was a welcome respite from the turmoil of his college life. As the fall semester drew to a close, students were expected to go back home for the holidays. It was time for Devon to revert to his college-age self. Back at the regression clinic, the process was the reverse of his initial regression, a gradual awakening from his infant state.
He felt his body stretching, his mind sharpening. The memories of being an infant slowly resurfacing as he was aged back to normal. He was a bit disoriented at first, overwhelmed by the flood of thoughts and emotions that came with being an adult again.
He missed the simplicity of infancy, the ease with which he could express his needs and desires. But he also felt a renewed sense of purpose, a desire to tackle his studies with the same enthusiasm he had for a colourful rattle.
He returned to his dorm room, which now seemed strangely unfamiliar, and stared at the stack of textbooks on his desk. He had a lot of catching up to do over the holidays, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. Of course, he wasn't expected to take any tests. This was for Devon's own personal benefit.
The holidays were a whirlwind of family, food, and forced merriment. Devon tried to explain his experience to his relatives. Professor Johnson had shared videos, photos, and scans of artwork with his parents. They chuckled and teased Devon over the more embarrassing moments. He couldn't blame them. His mother and younger sisters even hinted that they might come up for a visit when he was back in his infant form. Devon was unsure what to think of that.
But as the new year approached and the prospect of returning to college loomed, he found himself longing for the simplicity of his time as a baby. He missed the feeling of being cared for, the freedom from adult responsibility, the pure joy of exploring the world with fresh eyes.
He realized that his time as an infant had been more than just a break from college. It had been a journey of self-discovery. He had learned to appreciate the simple things, to embrace his vulnerability, to live in the moment. He knew he couldn't stay a baby forever, but he also knew that he didn't want to forget the lessons he had learned. As he packed his bags for the spring semester, Devon made a decision. He would continue his studies, but with a renewed perspective. He wouldn't sweat the small stuff. He would prioritize his well-being. And he would never underestimate the power of a good afternoon nap.
I had a new appreciation for the complexities of human development. Thanks to my unique experience, I even considered changing my major to child psychology, inspired by Professor Johnson's dedication to her students and her unconventional teaching methods.
He knew that life wouldn't always be easy, but he felt equipped to handle whatever challenges came his way. He had faced his fears, embraced the unknown, and emerged from the experience a changed man, or rather, a changed baby. And who knows, maybe one day he'd even consider a career in age regression studies, helping others find peace and rejuvenation in the most unexpected of places. Devon got a voice message from Professor Johnson.
Devon, they want you to be a young toddler next semester. Don't worry, I'll be there as your caregiver once more. One of your classmates will be under my care as well. I hope you had a fun holiday break. Call me if you changed your mind about the program.
I couldn't wait to get back to the age regression clinic and be in the loving care of Professor Johnson once again. One of my infant classmates and playmate, Jessica, had got in touch with me after she was restored to adulthood. She'd been under the care of her slightly younger sister and asked for a transfer to be under Professor Johnson's loving care with me. I smiled at the thought that I would have a playmate to share baths, watch cartoons, and be my co-model in the art classes.